And we are back with another episode of From the Rafters. Sam and I are here recording on a Saturday after the Celtics split a series 1-1 with the Hawks. We're here with Tim Sheils and KJ Doyle. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good. I'm gonna hijack this thing right off the top. Okay, we'll get to the Celtics in a second, but I just need a few minutes here. Okay, you guys all play 2K, right? All you guys play 2K.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know how you're creating your 2K My Player. You try to come up with fun names for them. You could also do this in other sports games. But anyway, I came up with 3 names. I want to just run these 3 names by you real quick, okay? 2 are very similar, and 1 is also connected to those. So here we go. All right? Now, these are names I feel pretty good about. So first, we got Manny Muffin. Thoughts?
For like a 2K player?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. Muffin is an interesting choice.
I'm going to sell you on it. Very marketable, okay? The Muffin Man connection, obviously. As far as jersey numbers go, you can go with 6, which would be a half dozen. 12, a dozen, 13, a baker's dozen. Like,
why don't you call him Manny Baker?
Nicknames.
Manny Baker.
Okay, so hold on. Right, we're getting to that. I wasn't going to go Baker because Baker Mayfield has his own thing, so I don't want to take it. But the next name is Blake Muffin. Blake Muffin. It sounds like bake a little bit. Okay, and obviously, you're worried about whatever name you're feeling, I guess, for your play. Whatever name fits your player better. I think Manny Muffin and Blake Muffin, I think they're very marketable. I think that's what's fun about the game, is just imagining how your player could be marketed. So those 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like them. I would go with Manny over Blake because of the alliteration, but that's my thought.
Is Muffin too cheesy though? Is it? Because I feel like it's good, but like no one's last name is Muffin. But it's also, I feel like it works.
I feel like it's plausible. It's a little out there, but I think it's possible for sure.
Okay. Then this one, you could do this with a number of different names, but Edward Zachary Bake, nickname Easy Bake.
Okay, see, I actually like that more.
I
don't
that
know
one.
If can you actually do like a middle name and have it be?
You can't do that though. Like you would have to just do Easy and then Bake.
You could do like a Karl Anthony Towns thing though, like with a hyphenated last name or first name.
Or you could do like his or like.
Oh, that's true.
Z Bake.
Yeah, I'd go with that one over the Muffins.
Yeah, for sure. I actually like that one a lot more.
All right, that was it. That's what I want to know.
That's it. That's the bit.
Alrighty. Well, I brought you 2 specifically here for this episode. I thought it'd be a good idea because I know you have very differing opinions on what the Celtics need to get at the trade deadline, and this is going to be titled "The Great Celtics Trade Debate." So I have like lists upon lists in front of me of players I think the Celtics could trade for. I have lists of like teams based on how willing they could be to trade at the deadline, and we're just gonna go into every possible trade possibility Danny Ainge could make at the deadline, because I think we're all in agreement a trade has to be done, right? Like this can't be
are you just gonna list players until you find, just like ask us yes or no, and then find one we disagree on, and then we're just gonna spend 10 minutes talking? Is that what we're gonna do?
Well, no, we're gonna like talk about, first of all, I'm gonna start with what do we think the Celtics need? We can all like discuss that. What do we think the biggest need is for the Celtics right now?
I don't think we're that far off.
I was gonna agree. I don't think we're that different either. I think I think the only thing maybe we disagree on at all is just the guard position, like a little bit, like, and that's like even barely. So I think you're painting this too black and white, Jack. That's what
I will not be broad stroked.
All I know is that you guys had an argument for about 1/3 of one of our pregame shows, and it was very entertaining.
It was the playmaking point guard conversation, specifically talking about getting another guard to throw into the rotation. But let's go through the players, because I want to hear some of these options, because who knows, maybe there's a player that comes up that we have totally polarizing opinions on. So,
and my opinion is that the pass first point guard is an endangered species. It's going extinct slowly, but well, maybe we'll get into that. But anyway, so go ahead. Start listing off the names or the general ideas, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'll start with this. So like I said, I broke up the teams into sort of like, okay, these teams will probably be more willing to trade. You can give them picks and assets and I'll be fine. And then the other ones like buying teams and neutral teams. So the teams I kind of focused in on as the teams that are going to be willing to sell are the Bulls, the Magic, the Cavs, the Pistons, the Rockets, the Thunder, the Wolves. Does it sound like I missed any, or do you disagree with any of those teams?
No, I think that's a good list. I mean, I'm glad you put the Kings on there. So
yeah, because I feel like the Kings will want a little bit more because they still have a decent future. They're decent this year. What do you guys think, Tim?
I think the Kings are borderline, right? Because they're kind of still in that picture. They still have a chance to go ahead and make a run. I'm not sure their record right now, but they're at the very least they're like a fringe playoff team or a playing in team. I still think Sacramento, like you said, they're going to want some serious assets if you're trying to get anyone from them. Namely, and I would imagine they would probably be on everybody's list here. Harrison Barnes and Rashard Holmes were probably the two big targets there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just think if you're the Kings, it's like you have to. If you're even close, you have to go for it. Like you can't sell off because you haven't made the playoffs for so long. What is it? 2006? It's like 15 years now. It's just they can't afford as a franchise like to be this close and then say, you know what, we're not going to go for it. We'd rather be like the 12th seed, and it's like, come on.
They actually are the 12th seed. Yeah, they're the 12th seed right now, 12 and 6. It's funny that you hit that on the nose. Sam, what do you think of that list of teams?
I think it's pretty good. Isn't it funny, Minnesota? They've had Towns for years. They made the playoffs once, and they were the 8th seed with Jimmy Butler. Can you believe that? That's like unfucking believable. I think it's time they move on from Towns. Whether it's to the Celtics, I don't know, but I mean, obviously, it's not working.
Yeah,
it's not working. You did have the Thunder on the list, right? I might have missed it yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Cat is unfortunately not in the TPE, though. I did research that just in case. So that'd have to be a Kemba type deal if they wanted to bring Cat here. Which I mean, I don't think Minnesota would do. And
well, they don't have their pick this year, so they might not even be selling. They're trying to win.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, but they've been so bad. I guess it might be interesting in the offseason if you can trade Kemba for picks and like a 3-team deal. The picks go to Minnesota and like Towns comes to you. Like it'd be ridiculous, but I'm just that is the only way you'd get Towns. Really, the only way to me is like if Towns was a free agent and then he said, I want to go to Boston, and Minnesota facilitated it for you, which wouldn't be the first time Minnesota helped you out, to get a star. But
very different situations now, huh?
Yeah,
McHale there.
Yeah. But that would pretty much be the only possible avenue to, getting Towns in here.
Minnesota loves wasting big man's careers. They love wasting big man's careers.
That makes me so sad, dude. Like, honestly, like they went out and they got D'Lo, and isn't D'Lo hurt right now too?
Yeah.
D'Lo's recovering from an injury, and like they moved a bunch of assets to Golden State to get him. Like, I don't know.
Crazy.
There's so many teams that I could think of just like hitting reset, but I don't know. The Timberwolves have very bad ownership. That much I know. A lot of people don't like their ownership team.
They do. It was fun to see Anthony Edwards kill Yuta Watanabe last night.
That was scary.
Oh my God. That was a dunk.
He's lucky he didn't get hurt, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like,
his leg got caught underneath him.
Yeah.
And it looked nasty, man.
He's one of those guys that just goes up and then he just like keeps going, like Gerald Green in his prime, where it's like, how did he get up that high? Like, his head is like halfway up the backboard, and you're like, what is going on? I'm watching a freak of nature. Like, that's what I first thought when I watched that dunk. I was like, oh my gosh.
Speaking of athletic feats, Payton Pritchard leapfrogged someone yesterday.
That was funny. I was surprised they didn't call him for a foul. I mean, I figured that was.
Well, that's why he did it. He didn't want to get called for a foul.
Yeah,
it's kind of awesome because like the Hawks player was like, "Well, I definitely don't want to have someone land on my neck," and so he like went down. And he was just like, "Shoot."
Payton Pritchard, man, gotta love it. I saw Sandwich Bread on Twitter make a graphic of it too, so that was entertaining. But no, yeah, the selling teams I listed off, those are the teams I can see. Maybe throw the Kings in there as well as teams willing to trade for like small assets, young players, picks. Maybe the Spurs if you want to throw them in there if they want to trade like DeRozan or Aldridge. But those are the main teams I got. So I figured we could go through them, take a look at some of the players that obviously have been thrown around in the world of Celtics Twitter and Celtics fandom, and then some of the ones that maybe haven't heard of as much. So I'm just going to go in the order I have it. And if you guys have any ideas throughout, feel free to bring them up. First team I had is the Bulls. Obviously, Thaddeus Young. I had Otto Porter, Thomas Satoransky, and Garrett Temple on there too. As a few veterans, I feel like the Bulls could be willing to trade. What do you think about potential packages from Chicago at the trade deadline?
Feel like it's got to be picks, right? Because if you're looking at Thad Young, he doesn't, unless you're cobbling together a bunch of contracts, you're not going to be able to trade for him. And I wrote about Thad Young for Clover Disclosure, but I really like his fit. The one thing I will say is his free throw percentage is putrid. Like it's bad. Like he's having career bad numbers from the free throw line. I think it's like the second lowest free throw rate he's had in his whole career. And his three ball isn't necessarily great. Like he's shooting like 25%, which is really bad, but his attempts are down a lot from last year. And last year he was like hovering around league average. So he's also like hyper efficient from like the 2-point range right now. So I think he fits a lot of needs. He's a true blue 4, right? So like you can actually play him at the power forward position, and he can either start or come off the bench. Right now, I think he's pretty much. I think all of his games have come off from the bench. But in terms of assets, I feel like it's probably going to be picks because he's under control for a couple more years. But he's over 30. I think he's 33.
Yeah, he is. I think I have it. He's shooting 50% from the line this season, which I saw, and he's 32 right now. So, but turning 33. So, KJ, Sam, what do you think about Thad Young?
You go ahead, KJ. You go first.
All right. I mean, I like Thad Young. I don't know that I'd want to give up. Want to deal the trade exception for him, if that makes sense, to trade the trade exception. But I don't know that I'd want to use the trade exception on him. But I've really warmed up to the idea, and this might even be a little much for Thad Young based on how they're performing, but just generally speaking, I've warmed up to the idea of trading Tristan Thompson. I know we talk about the thing of, you signed him in the offseason, and now you trade him like that's a bad look. Like, it happens. And, like, it's worse when you're doing it with, like, a star player. Like, if you're doing it with Tristan Thompson, and I know he's, like, friends with some stars, but, like, really, those stars like LeBron and Kyrie, like, they're not coming to the Celtics anytime soon. So, like, I'm not really too worried about that. So I actually like the idea of trading Thompson just because of how his salary slot can work. And he had a really good game last night. And I was talking to you, Jack. Like I in the first quarter, I thought you could argue he was the best Celtic on the floor in the first quarter. And, but I just look at him and I say he still can't hack it defensively. And I really feel like that's kind of part of what they brought him in for, not so much the offensive contributions. Not that he was ever like a lockdown defender, but guys are just like going off on him. Clint Capella, and Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic. Although I don't know how much he was a part of Jokic going off, but
Jokic was insane to watch.
Yeah, because Jokic was just nailing shots from everywhere. I don't think anyone could have guarded him. But Embiid and Capella like just killed him, and it's you look at it and say, if I want stuff offensively, like Tice is a pretty good offensive player this season. I can get the offensive stuff from Tice. I'm looking for more grit from Thompson, and he's really not giving that to me. And, he's been on these Cavalier teams where they really haven't had to turn it on until the playoffs. And I don't know if that's it or if it's just, he's kind of past his prime here or what it is. But I haven't liked how he's looked on the defensive end. And because his contract fits with so many players around the league, since it's right at that, 9-10 million mark, and there's so many players you can match his deal with, maybe you have to, if it's Thad Young, you might have to also throw in, someone at the end of like Javante or something to make the money actually work in the trade machine. I don't know. So someone can hop on the trade machine and check it out. But
I got you. I
like how that. Yeah, I like how that works in different trades. So I actually wouldn't mind if they decided to deal Thompson at the deadline.
Mm-hmm. I think Thompson is a good idea to trade just because he's the odd man out right now. Daniel Tice has been coming a little bit back down to earth. To be fair to him, he was going off unconscious from 3. He's cooled off a bit since he hurt his finger. Now you got Time Lord, who played 2 excellent games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. He was really good in the game before last night as well. He was great last night. Thompson was excellent last night. He was a difference maker in the game. But in terms of a consistency thing, he is not the guy that has been consistent at all. He's been inconsistent. It was really nice seeing shots actually go in for him, which are usually easy shots for guys in the league, and they don't fall for him for some reason. But Thad Young is someone that's interesting to me. You always see the graphic of him and like all the other greats because like he did like some, I don't know exactly what the stat is, but he did something that's like only been done by a few people that are.
We pulled it up yesterday. I have it saved in my computer.
You do?
I can pull up. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. We pulled it up yesterday during the post game stream. Players with 800 career games to average 13.5 points. This is a mouthful, so get ready for this. 800 career games, 13.5 points, 5.9 rebounds, 1.4 steals, 49% field goal percentage, and 30% three-point percentage. So a lot of qualifiers there. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Thaddeus Young.
This looks kind of like a dope stat line, though. Like, low-key.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean,
that's
it's good.
Why I like,
it's not bad.
I like Thaddeus Young because I mean, the stat is, crazy and a little stupid, but it shows off his versatility. He can do a lot of different things. Not to the elite level those guys can, but to that next level down. And that's why I kind of like him. Now, he's a little older now. He doesn't do all those things as well as he used to. But, I mean, to me, I think he fits this team better than Thompson. And, last year I was really clamoring, I know, for that championship presence, someone who had been there before, someone who had done it before. But as the season's gone along, I've started to cool on that, and I'm starting to think is that really gonna matter that much? I don't think Thompson comes across as the type of guy who's really going to help and instill that kind of knowledge in these kind of guys. So again, Thompson for Thad Young, there might be a value discrepancy there a little bit, and would the Bulls even want him? Maybe it has to be a 3-team trade, but generally, I would be interested in exploring those possibilities. And even, like they said, there are other guys that maybe we'll talk about later that Thad Young could work with, or Tristan Thompson can work with in trades, like Lonzo Ball, which is something I'm intrigued by too.
For sure. Yeah, I like Thad Young. I think he could fit well.
Guys, when is the deadline?
March 25th.
Oh, we got a while, huh?
Yeah. It's going to be a long ass time. It's going to be a lot of dialogue.
I was just thinking about when I should put my notifications on.
Oh, I got it.
But think
already.
about this. Yeah, if you think about this as kind of mid-January in relation to when we're usually getting ready for the trade deadline. So this is a pretty normal time to start talking about the trade stuff. I guess we talked about it a little earlier too this season, but it's a long build up to the eventual deadline.
It's warranted.
Yeah.
We've been looking at the way the team's been performing. I think
Danny Ainge even said it.
The fact that Danny, I was talking to Jack about this. The fact that Danny Ainge came out and was like, "Yeah, this team's definitely not good enough to win a championship." I'm paraphrasing, but he literally
said
right
now too.
Right now,
so which means that kind of hints that he is planning, or at least thinking about doing something.
It's indicative. I will say, getting back before we move on to another topic, in terms of trading for Thad Young, I think you have to think about salary wise, because I don't think you can't. I don't think you can trade Thompson for him. How much is Thompson making?
9.2.
10 million.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If you maybe do Thompson and Javante or something like that.
You'd have to actually match salary there. So you'd be looking at Thompson and another piece. And honestly, the one thing I will say that's going in Thompson's favor, with the way that Time Lord's been playing, I think it's not going to be too long. And this might be a hot take, but I don't think it's going to be long removed from the fact that Time Lord is going to take that starting spot. I think Time Lord's going to take that starting spot at center, and what you need now is a center that can play behind him. So that actually might play into Thompson's favor because he's signed long term. So I think is it a player option year 2?
No, I think it's just flat 2 years.
Okay, well then that also plays into the favor because I still think about Daniel Tice's long term contract.
I thought it was a team option.
Real quick, Thad Young for Tristan Thompson straight up works. So
really,
yep,
so interesting.
Works.
Tristan Thompson's flat 2 years.
Yeah, but they use the trade machine, and I didn't know if they were factoring the trade exception because there is $4 million in salary difference between them, which is a lot. It's almost 25% of the contract or whatever would be a little more than that, 25% more than Thompson makes. So I threw in Cornette just to see does that put it over, and it did. So it said Thompson for Young works straight up, and then the ESPN. So ESPN trade machine, according to them. That would
go attack them if it's wrong. Go attack ESPN if it's wrong. But yeah, moving on to the next one, I'm gonna skip around here. So in essence of time, I want to talk about Al Horford and the Thunder players you can package around with it. Obviously other Thunder players you could try to get in a
give
package
the farm for Al Horford.
They got Mike Muscala, George Hill, Justin Jackson. Trevor Ariza's taking a break. I think he's pulling an Andre Iguodala last season move right now, where he's
I think he has he's fighting for custody of his son. Didn't you tell me that?
I did, but then
somebody told me that.
I researched it and it said that, but I also think it's partially I don't want to play for OKC. I think it's a mix of both. But regardless, Al Horford is the topic of discussion here. What do we think about a reunion there?
I mean, I don't love it. I don't think I still think Al's contract with 2 more years after this, it's kind of an albatross. I mean, we saw what Philly had to do to get rid of it. I mean, they had to take on Danny Green, who a lot of people didn't want either, and I forget what else they had to do to make function and make it work. But Al, I mean, as Tim just said, people are already, not just him, a lot of people are talking about wanting Robert Williams to start soon here. So, I mean, I want a nice center that's a significant upgrade from those guys if I'm really going to trade for one. And because of his salary, because of where he's at in his career, because of his age, I just don't think Al's that guy. If I'm trading for a center, I want it to be Vucevic, which is I know a lot to ask, or even like at the bare minimum, I want it to be Jonas Valanciunas, like somebody that I view as a significant upgrade from what they have. And if it's not that, I just don't think at this point in his career, Al's that. I don't think he's as good. He can be as good defensively as he was in the past. And, I think they have other guys. Like I think Tice now gives them probably a little more defensively than Horford would. Certainly not, going to be.
I don't know about that one.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean,
one
Al is what, 34 years old at this point, 33 years old. I mean,
right now Al is averaging 14.5, 6.8 rebounds, 3.7 assists, around a block and a steal a game. So
yeah,
what are his splits?
His splits, let me look at that for you. 44.4 from the field, 37.7 from three.
That's not bad. That's not
really
bad.
3-point.
Wish the field goal percentage was higher, but 3 points not bad.
Also, he's 30 playing for the Thunder, so
yeah, but he's 34, and he's about to. Just like a matter of months. I think he's 3 or 4 months away from being 35.
How do you feel about PJ Tucker?
Yeah, I know what you're gonna say because he's up there in age too, and he's
so
a
I understand what the pay grade. If you're
the difference
about contract is
the difference there is PJ Tucker's not under contract for years to come.
Yeah, that's true. And Tucker isn't.
Left, right?
And Tucker's. I know they're similar in some ways, but Tucker's just entirely different position. I view Tucker way more as a wing than Horford. I know Tucker can play some small ball center, but I mean Tucker's a lot more mobile than Horford is at this point. So I just I think Horford. You saw it even in his last year with the Celtics. He was the year before. He was this Giannis stopper. He was, praised as this Giannis stopper. And the next year, Giannis got better too. So, and talking about the MVP, but he wasn't up to that level defensively. And then last year with Philadelphia, he couldn't do a lot of those same things. So as he continues to age here, he's losing a little bit on that end. And I actually, I just like what Tice gives them. I think he can approximate what Horford would give you. He can give you, he can do a lot of the same things, not quite as well. But I think that he can be that piece for you. I'd rather pay him, 5 than Horford 30.
I think Horford's your bailout option. There's like a couple of players I think that are on the trade market that are what I call pull the cord, where it's like you've missed out on all the big targets and here's who's left, who will still help you, but is still not your first choice. I think Horford falls into that umbrella. And
go ahead.
Yeah.
I thought you were done. If the contract wasn't so big, it would be an absolute no-brainer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't imagine that. Well, honestly, if the contract wasn't so big, the price would probably be higher. But the price probably isn't that high, which is something. 2 thumbs up from Sam. Second, I think you mentioned Robert Williams. Horford was a huge mentor to Williams, so if he comes back, Williams continues to grow. Not that he's not growing as it is, because he's been excellent. But Horford also, now I know it didn't work in Philadelphia. And I know I'm going to get flamed for saying it, but if you wanted to play him at the 4 with Williams at center, if you want him to start, it's different. It's a different situation because in Philadelphia, Embiid is a post player. That is where he's at his best, working in the post. And Horford wasn't able to do that. He wasn't effective. If Horford's in Boston, Williams is not a post player. He is a energy guy, cut, finish, lob. Horford can throw lobs out of the post, dude. He can facilitate from the post. Like, that would be excellent. I'm not saying it might not be as amazing as I'm trying to make it out to be, because I like Al a lot, and I think he's a good guy. And I think we already know he gets along well with the guys that are still on the team. There's some people that have left, but he might not have liked too much. Can you blame him? Probably not. But yeah, I think, and plus, I just think he already has defensive chemistry with the guys that are on the team. And I think that helps a lot too. Not that the guys that are on the team don't, because obviously they are on the team playing with these guys every night. I don't know. I think he's also an excellent guy to put at the free throw line to break the zone because of his ability to facilitate.
Yeah, I like Al. If I'm not mistaken, his contract is like 27.5 this year, 27 next year, and then 14.5 guaranteed.
Yep, there you go.
Guaranteed. that last year, so it's not the end of the world. And unless Danny Ainge thinks, because that lines up pretty well with the Kemba Walker contract, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure Kemba Walker's contract is off the books around the same time as Al's would be. And so if they are thinking, okay, we'll try it with this team, Al Horford is, like what you said, Tim, one of these last-ditch options to help the Celtics this year and in the next couple of years. We'll see how well that team does, and when it doesn't, when their contracts are up, we have all this cap space in the world to rebuild with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, reformulate the team. I like Al Horford, again, like all of you guys said. Maybe not the first option, but definitely not a bad one. Next team I want to talk about any player you want from this team is the Orlando Magic. I feel like they just have pieces upon pieces that could help the Celtics. Who's your guys' favorite trade target from the Magic, and what's a potential package you could throw together for that player?
Gordon is just because of I think the fact that he's been out. He's I've started to move away from wanting him. Although I would still really like him. I still think he fits really well. But as I look at like some of the other guys, like the part of the reason I like Gordon is because he can do a little bit of everything. As far as scoring, defending, and everything like that. And maybe the value will have gone down because or the price will have gone down because he's been out here, and that's something you can be intrigued by. But I mean, I like a lot of these guys, but like I said, you can just pick it off the roster. If you really want to swing big, if you think, Magic like the assets you have, swing for the fences and get Vucevic, that would be, not a bad option. If you want just bench scoring, like wing scoring, you can grab Fournier, you can grab Terrence Ross, and if you want that, something in the middle of those two things, it's Aaron Gordon. So, I really like all those options. Jack, I know you also threw, Michael Carter-Williams out as a guy that you kind of like on that roster. But, yeah, I mean, if I had to rank it, I guess in terms of what I want, it's tough for me to find a place for Gordon. But I think I would take Fournier over Ross, and I'd really like Vucevic. I just don't think it's realistic. But, really, if they could make any of those trades with the Magic, I think I'd be happy.
Mm-hmm. What about the rest of you guys?
Tim, you go ahead.
I think both of those are good targets. Ultimately, I think Vucevic or Gordon are probably the two I'm looking at. I think Vucevic kind of fits that mold if you want to go for an offensive-minded five, or if you really want to try it out and like go real deal with the double bigs. I think that's a good choice because Vucevic is a good offensive player. Dude, like
double
that's the
bigs.
only
couple of pimps last night broke the zone.
They had all three of their bigs were in double digits for scores.
I know.
They were
Excellent
in their
night
teens.
from the bigs.
Yeah, honestly. So so part of that could be an argument for not moving any of the bigs, but I think my opinion is you're trying to trade for a guy who's under contract long term, someone who's going to be here for at least 2 years. So I think Vucevic fits that mold. I think he raises your ceiling. I think he ultimately, outside of Rob being, the defensive beast, lob threat he is, I think Vucevic would come in and be your most established big. I think offensively, he gives you something that you don't necessarily get consistently from Daniel Tice. You're definitely not getting it from Tristan Thompson. And Rob's more of a rim runner than anything else. He's not going to be taking jump shots. So I think Vucevic is probably the guy I would look at if you're looking for bigs. I think Aaron Gordon is probably very narrowly behind him. I would worry about that ankles injury just because I don't know how long that's going to be bothering him for. But Gordon fits your timeline a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Sam, Magic trade assets, what do you think?
I think your best bet is to get Fournier or Ross, because in all honesty, I think the biggest need right now for Boston is more depth wing-wise. I think if you have Fournier, that makes you so much better because you can probably bring him off the bench to score. And it's kind of a need. I mean, there are too many offensive lulls, I think, for the Celtics, and it really fucks them over once in a while. Last night we saw they couldn't score against the zone. Solution was double bigs, but
oddly enough,
there's a lot of times where that happens, where they just in the fourth quarter too. Like, look at the Lakers game; they were up 7, and then all of a sudden, LA had a 1-point lead like 3 minutes into the quarter because they can't score. Stops are great, and I think defense is very important, which I like Horford too. But I don't think a big is a 1,000% need. I think you have two bigs that are playing really good on a pretty consistent basis, and then Thompson is good once in a while. Gordon, he's injured, which means his value could be low. And if the value is low and the price is right, sure, why not? He's young. Well, he's not that young. He's like the same age as Marcus, same draft.
Still pretty young.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know. If the price is right on that one, keep your eyes on it. I don't like overpaying for guys I'm too I don't like sending guys out. And I'm like, oh, there's something there. Like Neesmith has been playing. Oh, he's been excellent. He's been hustling. He hasn't been shooting, but he's been playing hard, which is good. It's very bare minimum what you want from him. Pritchard has been good this year, except for yesterday. Like there are guys that like teams want, and I'm like too afraid to give up. But I think Fournier isn't going to cost you that much. Even Terrence Ross wouldn't be too bad.
I really don't think there's anybody that I look at on the Celtics and like besides Brown and Tatum that I'm like I wouldn't trade. Like it's all just about value to me. To me, trading Marcus for Aaron Gordon that's like right in the line. Like I wouldn't quite do that, but if
I would never do that.
If the Magic wanted to, wanted to discuss Payton Pritchard, I wouldn't hang up the phone. Like, and I like Pritchard. I don't know if I would do that either. But look, you guys are shaking your head. Who's better, Aaron Gordon or Payton Pritchard? Who's better? That's
right.
I
don't think that's fair.
I don't think Aaron Gordon's that good, to be honest. Okay, I don't think I don't think Pritchard's better. But
that is why I would discuss it, though. That's what I'm saying. To me, that's all it is. Gordon's better
you're just
than
thinking
Pritchard,
about this season. You're just thinking about this one season.
But a little bit, but I think Gordon can be good for a really long time too, and I think Gordon's ceiling's higher than Payton Pritchard's as well.
But I don't think he fits nearly as well as Payton Pritchard with James.
No, and I think it also comes down to rotations, right? So like, why would you weaken your guard rotation to go ahead and add another big man?
Listen, I'm not trying to see Jeff Teague out there, Chief.
Oh, Gordon, please no.
Gordon can play more wing. Gordon, and maybe who knows? Maybe you get maybe
that's
you get
a need.
Look, and not that this is any great shakes, but maybe you can get Jack's guy, Michael Carter-Williams back, so you don't have to play D, which I know Carter-Williams
get out of here. Get out of here.
But
I don't
Boston
want
guy.
near this team.
Maybe he gets motivated to play for the Celtics.
I don't like Michael Carter-Williams either. Maybe you can find another guard. But my point being, Gordon's better than Pritchard. He can be a part of your team for a really long time. So that's why I'm not hanging up the phone there. I know we've fallen in love with Pritchard. But at the end of the day, you have to make those tough decisions. And if that's what it came down to get Gordon, if the Magic were saying we're going to ship Gordon to this other team unless you throw Pritchard in here,
I hang up,
dude. Screw that. I'm hanging up. I'm hanging up.
Depends what you're already giving them.
To me, you're improving the team.
Well, for one, you can't trade them upright, and you can't aggregate salary.
Well, Gordon can fit into the trade exception, and Gordon's a guy I wouldn't.
No, but again, you can't aggregate salaries, so you can't. I don't think you can combine a player with that salary.
You can. You can trade players with the trade exception. The only thing is that they can't add on to the trade
I'm pretty sure he's right. I don't think you can trade like what is it, like Tristan Thompson and the exception for Bradley Beal, but I think you can trade players and the exception to get players.
If they fit within the trade exception?
I think so. Yeah. I'm not 100%.
I still wouldn't do that. Because
I wouldn't either.
Pritchard's almost a 50-40-90 rookie, and he'd be the first in NBA history to do that. That's insane. I would never move that for Aaron Gordon.
I will say a lot of guys are starting to do the 50-40-90 thing that aren't like Larry Bird and Steph Curry. Like, wasn't Malcolm Brogdon doing it last season?
Brogdon's a wicked good player.
I love
He's a really good player.
And also another 4-year college.
He's not Curry or Bird, though.
He's better than Aaron Gordon.
One of these things is not
Brogdon's
definitely
better than Aaron Gordon.
You think Brogdon's world's better than Aaron Gordon?
Yes.
1,000%. Is the Pope Catholic?
I don't think world's better. I think incrementally maybe. But
I think Brogdon could be an all-star this year. Realistically, I think Brogdon.
And we've heard, by the way, like other NBA people, like Zach Lowe has said, like he's always said, I really want to see Gordon on a good team because I think he can do some of the things that Draymond Green does, and I want to see that too. I think
maybe he's right.
I think Aaron Gordon could fit here as like a great piece if you're running lineups of Brown at the 2, Tatum at the 3, Gordon at the 4. You're all automatically insanely switchable. If you have a lineup where you really need the defense and you put Smart at the 1, like that's going to be a really hard lineup to score on.
I really like Aaron Gordon.
Also, not only is he really good defensively, he can also bring that, I'm going to call it secondary scoring, which of course, not the second option, but that bench scoring or, the extra scoring that you need at the wing. To he can do both of those things. That's why I really like him so much. He's a great defender, and he can give you that a little bit of scoring. He's not an elite scorer, but he can do a lot of that still too with his athleticism, and he's pretty good. He'd be a good again, I'm going to call it a secondary option as a scorer that the Celtics need. So I think Gordon brings them a lot of things they need. That's why I'm not turning my nose up at that. I'm sorry. I know we all love Payton Pritchard, but Aaron Gordon's just better.
No, that's not happening. I'm not moving Pritchard for him. They can get draft capital. I'd make it move, but I'm not moving Pritchard.
I think Pritchard is just someone that like a lot of people see as like the future point guard after Kemba, and that's kind of, I don't know if you would say it's hard to find, but he seems to be a good fit. He makes decent decisions. He plays gritty defense, which is what people like here. I don't know. I don't know if I would do that.
0-7 last night.
Oh, he had
KJ, I fought with you on the post game last night, KJ. KJ's trying to come at Payton Pritchard for having one off night. I'm like, dude, why? He had one bad.
Dude, I'll tell you what, he had an off night, but I still would have rather had him out there than Teague.
I mean, I'm just worried that we're going to throw away a great opportunity because we've fallen in love with this guy a little too early. I mean, it's only been a few months, guys. I know you really like him. I know he does all the right things for you, and you guys are getting along great. But it's only been a few months, guys. You're not marrying this guy.
Would you consider him in the running for Rookie of the Year?
In the running, probably not.
I mean, I would consider him like an all-rookie first teamer for sure. Like,
okay,
I think
that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good.
But you know who else made the all-rookie first team? Michael Carter-Williams, all right?
He was Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he was Rookie of the Year.
In fact, yes. I know. But
I'm saying it's too early to give up on a guy for somebody who's...
I'm not giving up on him, but that's different.
That is what you're doing.
It kind of is doing that because you're saying he's not going to be more impactful than Aaron Gordon.
No. Did the Celtics give up on Al Jefferson? No, they traded him for a really good player. I'm not giving up on Payton Pritchard. I'm just looking at the trade and I'm saying I'm getting a really good player in exchange that I like and I think fits well with the roster.
I mean, he's not KG.
No. But you're not trading someone that's. But Payton Pritchard's not quite as good as Al Jefferson either. Like he's a step below as a prospect. But I just look at Payton Pritchard and I think he can be really good. I mean, he could be a really, really good player. I still think his ceiling is like only a tick or two above where Gordon is right now. And who knows if he'll even reach that ceiling. So, and I think Gordon can get even better maybe with Boston. So I like the deal. I think that, like as I said, I know it's hard to give up on these guys, especially when they endear themselves to the fan base so much. But if you asked most people around the NBA right now who's a better player, they're going to say Gordon.
That's not even what it's about. I think Gordon's clearly the better player right now.
Yeah, right now for sure.
I would love Gordon on the Celtics. I just don't think that's what you need, especially from what Tim said. If you trade away Payton Pritchard, Jeff Teague's your bona fide backup point guard. Like he's going to get
which is tough. It's very tough.
You could find other ways to trade for other point guards.
Maybe you go and get Rondo. Right, you have a little bit of fun.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm not against trading for Rondo. Yeah, go ahead and do that. But you can also.
Am I the only one that thinks he's a good fit?
I think he's a great fit.
This
is what we combated on this before.
No, but this is also
a very good fit.
This also works, towards my point of saying like I don't think they need guard depth right now. But obviously, you trade away one of them, then of course you need them. So like you don't
need guard depth if you don't trade one of them away. I think it's a very easy solution right there. I don't think you trade away a rookie. The last time that the Celtics traded early on a rookie,
I just think Chauncey Billups.
I think Chauncey Billups. I think Joe Johnson. I think of so many good players that you. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, just don't trade a rookie halfway through a good career.
I was watching a video the other day. It's like a Kyle Lowry with the Rockets situation, right? Guards take so long to develop, and when a guard shows this much promise at such a young age, I just don't want to give up on him so early. Yeah. Well, I know you're not giving up on him, but like
he's not that young. He is young, but he's not as young as most rookies are.
Yeah, that's
because he's a 4-year college athlete. Yeah,
which is why he's so good right now. I think.
Yep.
I don't know. We found the one thing we disagree on.
I mean, I think guards are kind of easy to find, and I get what you're saying about like guards taking a while to develop sometimes.
I think
but like
easier to find than guards.
Yeah,
you think
it's easier to? I think it's easier to find wings than guards.
I think it's harder to find a guard that fits well.
I think point guard is the deepest position in the NBA right now.
I agree. But how many are really, really a great fit? Honestly.
I don't know. I mean, what do you mean for the Celtics specifically?
For the Celtics, like that's the thing, and I think going forward he will be a really good fit. And that's
I think a lot of guys. Like I think if you had, a guy I wanted in the offseason I was clamoring for was like a DJ Augustine who ended up signing with Milwaukee. Like I think he would have been a nice backup point guard to have. Like
fucking Jack, dude. Jack just looks so disgusted.
We've got to change gears.
All right, let me.
Dude, that's so perfect. KJ's thing just said internal temp too hot.
Relax. Oh, is that internal temperature too hot? Yeah.
Are you charging it?
These takes, no.
Fun fact: I made that face because I wrote an article on Jeff Teague the other day, and DJ Augustine is the one player in the league shooting worse from 2-point percentage than Jeff Teague is. So,
but
there's
in fairness to KJ, I think it is an interesting idea of Gordon becoming better than he is now because he's a good fit with the Celtics, and that is intriguing to me. So I understand where KJ is coming from. I think that's a good point.
I think you trade for him. I think you just don't move Pritchard.
I don't know if you're going to have to.
Don't get me wrong,
Pritchard.
guys.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I like Pritchard, and I would hold out until the very end. But if it was like back against the wall time, like my point is just that he's not untradeable to me. And like it goes to another guy like Marcus Smart. Like there's certain guys out there I would trade Marcus Smart for.
Sam's
Like,
gonna kill you.
It's a very small list of guys that I would
don't think
trade
Aaron
Marcus
Gordon
Smart
makes that
for.
list.
Yeah,
And
Josh
I don't
Hawkins
think KJ does either. But KJ's list is probably longer than mine.
It's
Fair.
probably much longer than yours. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, it's all about just value to me. Like, which player is better? Like, would I want this guy over
But you're just thinking for this season. That's my issue.
I'm not
with it.
only
Well,
thinking for
Mark,
this season.
I
Like,
think
if your
Marcus's
point
contract
was
is
like
also
Harrison.
up after this season,
Jack,
if
we
I'm not
talked about.
mistaken.
I've talked about Harrison Barnes with you before, and
Yeah.
you mentioned Harrison Barnes, the guy that can help the Celtics for years and years. Gordon's younger. Gordon can do the same thing. He can help the Celtics for years to come. It's not just if I was talking about trading for Al Horford, then yes, it would just be this season.
And I told
But,
you
like,
I wouldn't
Gordon-
trade Pritchard for Barnes either, though. Like I wouldn't do
No,
that.
I know, but my point being though that Gordon can help this team for even longer. Gordon could be on this team and a good piece for theoretically if he stayed here 7-8 years.
My thing is they help the Celtics in very different ways, and I think the way that Payton Pritchard could help the Celtics is more important than the way Gordon can help the Celtics.
Yep.
That's just my opinion there.
Yeah, that's not a bad argument. I just think, Gordon is a player that they could really need, not just as a bench piece. I think he could start in certain games at the 4. And like I said, be very versatile. Like I like that kind of versatile piece, the guy that can guard multiple positions. He can guard the 3 or the 4, and then if you really want to play small ball, he can go down to the 5 too. So, I really like the idea of Gordon from that standpoint. And, like I said, I understand. I'm coming for, the baby right now. I'm saying, I'm
That's
coming
not
at
even
somebody-
it though. It's not like
He's
it's
the
not
chosen
like
one.
No, it is. It's you have a new baby, and I'm the guy coming in saying that baby's ugly, right?
Fuck that baby.
That's not even
But-
it though. I just think he has room to grow, and I think he fits with the Celtics better than Aaron Gordon could. I guess it's just an opinion thing.
I think you're taking
but,
a gamble by adding someone new into the equation and assuming that they're going to be better here.
Well, I mean,
If it ain't
you
broke,
kind of
don't
have to
fix
do
it.
that at this point.
Yeah, well,
This
yeah.
is
So
the
you
time-
can
It
add
is
someone
broke.
else.
That's the thing.
Well, not
And
if
Pritchard,
not
Pritchard
for
is
Pritchard.
not.
That's
Pritchard
what
is
I'm
not
saying.
broke.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like that clip of Mike Gorman where I'm not comparing this too much, but that clip of Mike Gorman from years ago where he's saying like, I wouldn't give up Jared Sullinger, and I don't want to give up Tyler Zeller. I don't want to give up Baby. Like he's going through the entire Celtics roster and he's saying that I don't want to trade him. I don't want to trade him. I don't want to trade him. And like people always
That's me.
about the Celtics overvaluing their players and stuff like that. And I'm not saying we're doing that. I'm not saying you guys are totally doing that with Payton Pritchard, okay? Because I said Payton Pritchard's really good, but like Avery Bradley was also really good, and Jay Crowder was also really good. But like there were probably trades available that maybe should have been made with those guys.
Different kinds of players. Different kinds of players entirely.
I think this goes back
I
to
think
us
those are very
believing that
different.
wing players are more easy to find than guard
You
players.
can, you can slap a wing or a decent defensive-minded guard in there, and like that's very different for what you're getting from Payton Pritchard. And you're also talking about a rookie who's like halfway through his rookie season. Like that's
but I think I don't really care that much about that. Like the fact that he's a rookie, like it, I don't like see any insane value in the fact that he's a rookie. Like
he's under contract, he's under team control for multiple years,
That's
and
what I
he's
see.
cheap money.
And
so
my
yes,
thing
there
is,
is absolutely value there.
I don't even like care about the rookie thing that much because I trade Aaron Nesmith. Like he's playing great right now, and I'm not
Yeah.
completely closed off to that idea. I just think that Payton Pritchard showed so much, and that he can be such a unique value to this team that I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade him for a guy.
I think it's because he's smart. Like he
Yeah.
makes like good decisions. He probably turns
he
the ball
checks
over
all
more
the
than I
boxes.
think, but
he just checks all the boxes.
yeah. But let's go back to Marcus real quick because KJ, we talked about our list, and here's the and I've said this millions of times to Jack. The reason I am very against trading Marcus is because we're talking about value, right? Players like Marcus are much more rare than, let's say, a scorer. Okay? Guys like Marcus are very rare. Plus, Marcus has improved his offense very much. And he's a decent playmaker. But I mean, you don't find
Great
Marcus kind of guys out there. You find plenty of whatever you're probably trying to trade him for out there, like all the time, unless it's like a superstar. Which is it's a homer take.
I already know KJ's
saying
argument too for this, and I kind of agree with KJ, but I also agree with Sam's point. KJ, is your argument going to be yes, but you don't need a Marcus Smart type player to win a championship?
I mean, I've said that in the past. What I was going to say now was rare doesn't mean good. Like you know what else is rare? The Black Plague right now. That's pretty rare, but it's not good. And I'm not saying Marcus is like the Black Plague is definitely bad. I'm not saying Marcus is bad, but I'm just saying that those, it's not a simile for good. Or a synonym, I should say. Sorry, but my point with Marcus is like, yes, he gives you those little things, and I like it, but it's again the thing of which player is better. Like, and after last night. Definitely cooled on John Collins after last night. That was not a good performance from John Collins. I mean, my goodness. So I don't know that I would do that anymore. But like I said, there's still certainly players out there. Like if you guys want to, just rapid fire rattle some players off and ask about trade Marcus Smart for them, that might be a fun idea. But
ask us both. We can see if we can agree on one.
All right, Tim. I see Tim sighing at something. What was that? What were you making a face at? Because
you were raking Pritchard over the coals about a bad game, and then like John Collins has one bad game.
No, I think he was just trolling with Pritchard. I don't think he's like.
No, he was serious. He brought this up on post.
No. I was trolling a little bit. I was doing it just because I knew how you would.
He's just busting balls. I don't
what
think
do you mean? I said Pritchard had a bad game, and I said Collins had a bad game, and I've cooled on him. I don't, I was disappointed in that bad game. I don't think that was inconsistent.
I think writing off a dude for like one bad game.
I wasn't writing him off. I was just saying.
No, I think if you're saying like, oh, I'm not going to trade for John Collins, and I'm like, dude, John Collins would be perfect for the Celtics system. I think, I just like, I don't like the approach of like a dude has one bad game and it's like, he needs to be traded, or I'm not going to trade for him.
No, I didn't say I wouldn't trade for him. I said I've cooled on the idea of specifically of trading Smart for him, because before I was open to that. Now I'm like, maybe I'd trade for him for, if you want to throw those other pieces we've talked about before, Neesmith, whatever else, in a package for him. Like then I'll talk about it. But I don't think I'm giving Marcus Smart anymore.
I think we should look at the rest of the list because I know Sam's tight on time. But
okay,
I know.
I'll go till 2:20. Fuck it. I'm all in. I was literally opening my laptop so I could send you guys all a message saying I would stay for an extra however long.
All right. Well,
Jack, rattle off names high on the list, and I'll say if I think it'll be less than you think if we're talking about actual realistic players they could trade for. That I'm actually going to trade Marcus for, but just rattle off some possible trade options for them that are pretty good, and I'll tell you about trade Marcus for.
The thing is, I don't think most of the options I have written down, I don't think you'd have to trade Marcus Smart for, which is kind of like what I was looking for. Not that I'm not like completely closed to the idea of it. I really think Danny's in a tough situation. I'll say this before we get going with that, because the starters like of Marcus, Jalen, Jason, and Kemba have played like 21 minutes this season together. So when you get into trading those guys, I think it's a lot harder because you don't know what you have yet. I know they played all together last season, but this team hasn't really played any healthy games together. So you really
played well last season.
Yeah, together. Exactly. So Danny has to tread carefully when he's making these moves, though they do have to be made, which is why it's bad, because he has to tread carefully, but moves do have to be made.
And now Kemba seems like he's finding his footing a bit too.
Exactly. Which is it just makes everything harder. I'm happy it's making it harder because I want Kemba to play well, but it makes stuff a lot more difficult for Danny. But
I agree.
I will
Jack,
say,
I
want to see what Sam thinks about this. I want to see what Sam thinks about this. So Sam, in the future, okay,
right.
Karl Anthony Towns becomes available to you. This is the Timberwolves want Smart as part of the package. Do you give him up?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Because Towns is, well, I'm gonna like just play devil's advocate. I would, yes. My answer is yes. But dude, Towns like hasn't done shit. I mean, he hasn't won anything. Yeah. He's made the playoffs once, and the team he was in the playoffs with was a good team. They were only the 8th seed, and they got swept, or they won one.
Won one.
They won one. So I mean, like, dude's been in the league for 5-6 years now. Made the playoffs once. Is it his fault? Probably not completely. But it leaves a little bit to be wondered about how good he actually would be on a good team. But that being said, I still probably would have to do that because he's a top center in the league.
And my devil's advocate to that would be Devin Booker. You put him in a good situation, and obviously you see how well they do.
I thought you were saying
No. I'm just saying. I think if you put the right player in the right situation, I think they can play well. And Devin Booker obviously lost for so many years. You add a guy like Chris Paul, which I know is very unique, right? Chris Paul is a very unique player, but you give him a good coach in Monty Williams. You give him a better situation with these players around him, and Devin Booker can win you basketball games.
I think that's a really good point. I think when it comes down to guys like Booker, I think Booker also has a different mentality than Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah,
I think they're cut from a different kind of cloth. And also, it's hard with positions, right? Because big men have to be like really tough. You got to be tough as nails to be a big man, because if you go against elite bigs, he's just not like that kind of big. I don't know if he's more of a stretch 4 as opposed to a true blue 5 of like getting in the paint, being gritty. Yeah, like I don't know. And that's also another perfect example of a guy who hasn't won anything, who might be on the plushier side of soft. So I think when you look at Marcus Smart, you have to think about contract. That is the biggest thing. Sam mentioned it. I don't think it doesn't expire next year, but I think it's the year after his contract will be up. So if you're looking at acquiring anyone, specifically in this instance, John Collins, I think you do throw Marcus Smart in there, because if you're trading for a guy like John Collins, eventually it means that you're going to be pricing yourselves out of Marcus Smart territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also something to look at.
Is Smart going to get $20 million plus on his next deal? 18 million plus?
Could, yeah. I mean, yeah, probably 18 is probably a good number to set it at. 18 to 22,
which is a lot.
But they'll have bird rights on Marcus.
Yeah, but then you're dipping into hard cap, and like
you're dipping deep into the luxury tax to keep Marcus Smart.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wick has said he would do well. He didn't say Marcus Smart, but he said he would pay money to win. He was willing to go into the where he has to spend more money. I don't know how it all works, but.
And the other thing about that is like that's an important point to think about is like, well, are you pricing yourself out of Marcus Smart and all that stuff? But like, if you're trading Marcus Smart, you're probably also trading for. I know you mentioned like Collins within that, but you're trading for a player you're also going to have to pay a lot. So like either way, whether you trade him or not, those price considerations are still going to come into play. At a certain point when you have to pay whoever you're going to have to pay. So whether it's Smart or somebody else, so.
It's comparative, right? So like if you're trading for Collins and you're not dealing Smart, you have to pay Collins long term if you're giving up assets for him. It can't be a 1-year rental based on his age. He's only 23 years old. He fits your timeline. I think he's friends with Jason Tatum. Like it would make sense to make that kind of move. But if you're keeping Marcus Smart, it's like, okay, you're doing one of two things. You're either hoping that Marcus Smart is going to take a team discount to stay long term.
Which he did once already, kind of. I don't know how much he was going to get paid that year when he signed.
Because I know the teams were interested, right?
It's a fairly team-friendly deal. Here's the thing. Like, I'm not sure. I feel like my heart says he would, because I know he really loves playing in Boston. He really loves the Celtics. But he already did it once. Mm-hmm. Okay?
To some degree, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he's in. I would have put my house on Horford too. He didn't do it. So.
Well, I mean, this is what I'd say about Marcus is just from the contract standpoint is, Thompson expires at the same time, which is one of like I think the 5 highest contracts on the team right now, so it's $9 million, which come off the books. And then the following year, Kemba will expire. So you're really talking about 1 year where it's tough to make it work, but like if you can, and again, the salary is going to be ascending, or however you want to describe that. So it shouldn't be too tough to make it work. It'd be a little difficult, maybe. Yeah, and at that point, maybe it is easier to deal Kemba Walker if you absolutely needed to make the Marcus thing work, and you say, well, he has 1 year left, and we're not going to re-sign him, and blah 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 blah. So it's not impossible. It's not like a huge hindrance, but it's obviously going to be something they're going to have to consider because anytime any of these guys come up, it's a conversation.
I think if you trade Marcus, it has to be for somebody you want to pay more than Marcus. Which is, I think, the whole thing. So that's probably a short list.
Tough ones for me is like Vucevic, because like Vucevic very clearly better than Marcus, but with his age, he probably only has like 2 or 3 prime years left. So it's like
how much of an impact does he make though? That's value and impact for me are different. Right?
Yeah,
because I agree that he's absolutely a better player than Marcus. But how much of an impact is he going to make compared to Marcus?
You could also argue he never had the opportunity though, because
that's also true.
Suck.
I think he can come in and average 17 to 20 points per game, depending on the amount of shots he gets, and the bare minimum 17, I think. So I think he can be a player that turns you into top 3 or 4 offense in the NBA, and defensively you should still be at least top 20. So,
at the
I
very
mean, top 20 is not great.
Yeah, at the very
No,
least,
but-
top 20.
No, but I think my point being that if you're good enough offensively that you can just tread water defensively, you can win a championship.
See, my argument there, though, is if you're going for the all offense, no defense, and even like average defense, I know you have an argument against this, but like if you're going to have the great offense, there's already one of those in the Eastern Conference, and they're going to kill every other
No,
team.
Jack, but you know what I'm going to say? What am I going to say, Jack?
I know. They have a terrible defense, and you'd at least have an average defense, but an average defense isn't going to stop those three. Is what I'm
No,
saying.
but you can stop them on a few more
Yeah.
possessions a game that could ultimately end up winning you the game.
That's
That's my
what I'm
point. Is that it's all a math equation. It's all ultimately it's about net rating. So can your net rating be really good?
You know what I wish the Celtics did? I wish the Celtics traded for Clint Capella last season. All hindsight, like obviously they probably wasn't there, but like that, just thinking back and how well he's doing for the Hawks. That
Apparently they were really close at one point.
Yeah.
In,
They were super
when
close,
was
and it was
it? I'm
Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart was the asking price.
Yeah.
So again, would you trade Marcus
W
Smart
for
Clint
Danny.
Capella? Yeah, dude, I wouldn't. Look how Rob's playing. We
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah,
on the pod.
exactly. You already have Rob, dude. Literally, and I've
You
said
need
this millions of
you need
times to
different
Jack.
skill.
He is the same dude when he's gonna hit. He's gonna have. Or I don't know if he's the same, but he's gonna have the same kind of ascendance to being like, oh, this guy is actually like good.
yeah. I
As
gotcha.
good as Rob was, he still had a few plays last night where you were like, they got him. And I just
those will
worry.
go away
The
with time.
goaltending one was my favorite.
I still worry,
It
like,
goes up.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just like, dude, what are you doing?
I still worry that I just think like he's not the smartest player. He's just not. And I like Clint Capella. I worry he's never going to be on that level that Clint Capella's at, just because he's not going to think. He's not going to have the game mentally, and Clint
Maybe
Capella is not like any savant. But Clint Capella, like I just worry that Rob's never even going to be at that level as far as like basketball intelligence, basketball
I think
IQ.
he can get there, but I
Well,
don't know yet.
you bring Al Horford back. He mentors him a little bit, teaches him some defensive
He's just
positioning.
like the word I always use to describe like Rob is just he's way too eager. He's way too eager all the
You're right.
time to make the
Yeah.
play.
And
It
if he can
kills
control that, I think he'll be good. But
He had a crazy play last night where he jumped up, got pump faked, was able to literally like come back down and block him. And Capella went up when he was like at the peak of his first jump. And he got back down and still blocked him.
if he can
It's
learn to like have the smarts, then he'll be an elite defender. And
It's
I think
impulse
that's
control.
Bringing it back to the beginning, it's one of those plays in 2K where you're like, how did that guy block? I pump
Yeah.
faked him, that guy still blocked me. How did
And they
like,
block you with
yeah.
their fucking thigh.
Yeah, literally. But with the 10, 15 minutes we have left, I want to throw out some bigger names, and we can go like quick little thoughts on them. We don't have to go into huge discussions, but I'll start off with Victor Oladipo on the Houston Rockets because this is a guy I don't mind. So I want to know your guys' quick thoughts on that. We'll just go around the horn here. We'll start with KJ, then Sam, then Tim.
All right.
KJ.
Oladipo's tough because just the contract situation. Also, I mean, I'm not a big proponent of this. I don't think it's as big of a concern as Sam does, but I do worry about fit with Oladipo because he would be the third, fourth option. And is he going to be happy with that? Because I think that became a problem in Indiana at times. Not that he, just how far he fell down the pecking order there. And I think he could really only be the third or fourth option here, and I don't know if he'd be happy with that. So, and also I don't know what you would have to give up. Like, again, he's expiring, so maybe it wouldn't be a ton. Maybe it'd just be a little more than what you would have to give up for a guy like Fournier or something. But ultimately, I don't know if Oladipo would be happy here, and I think that could end up being a problem in the future. So I don't love it.
I remember like we were talking to Adam Taylor about this. I don't remember where it was, Jack. It was in the chat somewhere, and he was saying he didn't love Oladipo because it's kind of a lose-lose. Oh, I think it was when the Hayward thing was happening, actually. It's a lose-lose because if he doesn't play well, then you don't get your value. But if he does play well, then he's going to get paid and leave.
Mhm.
So if the price is right, I think that's a decent idea. I think it is, it's a factor if he is willing to take a smaller role. I think he might be someone, and you guys are going to clown me for this, that you could bring off the bench to be a scorer because you already have 3 scorers in your starting lineup. But if you bring off the bench, he gives you a little bit of a spark if he wants to embrace that role. Not that you really have a choice to ask him before you trade for him, but I think it's an interesting fit.
Mhm.
if the price is right, which for me is like nothing. So, because all these other teams are getting guys for a bag of chips.
Yeah.
The Celtics, they want an arm and a fucking leg for everybody. Like, what did the Hawks give for fucking Capella? What did they give? Nothing.
It's because of Danny Ainge, man. And look, I like Oladipo. I guess my question is fit. I think I wonder fit, and also contract. I think future contract is something that worries me. If the question is a matter of picks, if Depot comes out and says, I want to play for Boston, yeah, great. Fucking trade for that guy. Like, make it happen. If a dude wants to be here and is willing to take on a certain kind of role, then make it happen. But other than that, I would be very worried about it. I know he came out and was on an interview or something talking about wanting to win, so that could be a thing. If he wants to win and wants to win in Boston, great. If not, I'm a little bit sheepish on that subject. I just don't think I worry about fit. He's not much of a wing.
And I know we talk about the whole thing of, what did the Hawks give for Capella? But they did manage to make that 14 pick. So the Rockets did get Covington, in the end. So, blame the Timberwolves if you want to for what they ended up doing. But it's not like the Rockets just gave him away to Atlanta.
Yeah, it's definitely
Timberwolves are stupid.
Yeah.
Let's talk about giveaways. Fucking Derrick Rose, bag of chips. Not that he's amazing or anything, but and I'm not saying that the Celtics should have won and got him this season, but I remember last season. That would have been something I would have been really interested in. Dude, they get him for fucking nothing. Dennis Smith Jr., are you fucking serious?
I mean, Dennis Smith Jr., he had an okay game the other night, actually. Nothing great.
Man, I know, but if you're the team giving up the Knicks, dude, that's a no-brainer. That never happens for the Celtics when it's someone. It's never a no-brainer.
It's leverage.
Yeah, last night it wasn't so great. It was an 0-7 for Dennis Smith, so not great. But the two previous nights, 10 points, 9 points, 7 of 15 shooting. So not bad. And even last night, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. So Dennis Smith not playing terrible. Because I saw someone tweet on Pistons Twitter. They were like, Dennis Smith playing like this when Derrick Rose just went, whatever Derrick Rose was that game. I don't know. He was like, not a great look for the Knicks.
Yeah, it's just Pistons is just where everybody goes to revive their career, I guess. Jeremy Grant, Josh Jackson, Mason Plumlee. Props to them. I think they'll be fine. But the next guy, I was going to go Harrison Barnes, but I feel like everyone's talked about Harrison Barnes.
Jack, I have to say, by the way, just the Pistons thing, not working out for Jahlil Okafor, but
that's also true. I think he's hurt right now, but it's just they're a mess. Next one, I'm just going to go down the never talked about route. Kyle Lowry
for the Celtics.
What's the price? I think he's a good fit actually. If you're doing price, Kemba for him,
it's Kemba.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what the price would have to be. After last night, it's tough. But
see, now Kemba's playing like a pimp, so no. Because Lowry sucks.
Dude, Lowry doesn't suck, Sam. That pissed me off when you say that, because he's not. He doesn't suck.
He lost the Celtics last year. He sucks.
I don't think he sucks. I just think, Lowry.
Consider it.
I'm just fucking with you. I think it's an all right fit because he's a gritty player. And you know why I consider it?
It's because his contract's up at the end of the season.
I think at the most, I guess that's a good point. But I think that if anything, it's a lateral move that's also going to just annoy Tatum a little bit because Tatum likes Kemba a lot still.
Okay.
And I don't love the idea of it. And if and here's the other thing about it is you're saying his contract's up at the end of the year, so it helps you get out of Kemba's contract, which I know you weren't.
Yeah, that's not exactly what I meant, but yeah. Continue.
I know, but the point being that. If the idea is just that, I guess this wasn't your idea, but if the idea was just to get off the money, now you save the ownership money, but it's not like they have another max slot because they're over the cap. So, I think when I look at it, I just rather keep Kemba at this point. I think, for a lot of reasons, it's making a move that is really kind of just a little bit needless, a little bit it's complicating things for almost no real value in return. It's a little too much for me.
A week ago is a different story, Jack. But now Kemba's playing like a pimp again. You can't be trading him, man. He's got 3 good games in a row. He looks like his old self. He's getting to the basket. He's not getting blocked anymore, which is huge. Whatever that was about, he figured it out because he was literally getting blocked every time inside. He's finishing on dudes all the time now. It's fine.
It is funny because it's kind of like the Adam Taylor thing you said with Kemba, which was that. You said the Oladipo thing was that if he doesn't play well, then you're not getting your value. And if he does, he's leaving in free agency and whatever. But the Kemba thing is like, if he's not playing well, he has no trade value. But if he is playing well, you want to keep him. You don't want to trade him. So it's it's an interesting catch-22 there. And I think there will be fans out there that say, "Oh, trade him now. His value's high," and it's like it's still not that high. He said like there's teams didn't just forget what happened in the first month of the season. I still think like it's gonna be very difficult for Kemba to build up his value back to a point where you can get adequate value in return for him, because otherwise you'd rather just hold on to him and hope he continue to play like this, or that he plays like this when it's most important for him to play like this.
Yeah, my thing with Kyle Lowry is just the playmaking and the defense, but I understand the point that it's just there's no really other.
The defense is what does it for me, because he's a gritty player. You don't need him to score a whole lot because you have Tatum and Brown. And I'm sure if you had him, he would score in the situations you need him to. He was a real prick to play against the playoffs last year. That being said, like he carried them through Game 6 in the overtime when Smart had a triple-double, and he was unreal. I mean, it would be interesting. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, because I agree with KJ. It's a lateral move. It doesn't look good because Simba was hurt. You already have a bad reputation for the Isaiah thing, which isn't fair because other teams fucking do that shit too. Chicago did it with Derrick Rose. No one fucking talks about that.
Toronto.
I mean, we just talked about Philly. Philly traded Al Horford a year after they signed him to a contract.
No. I think it's more because they were hurt. I think that's why people are pissed about Isaiah, because he was hurt and then they traded him and then he never recovered. Yeah. But Derrick Rose, they did the fucking same thing. So that's some bullshit.
With that, we have, I think, 5 minutes till Sam has to go. So I'm gonna leave you guys with one more name. It's another reunion name. I think he could come and be like a Lou Will. Terry Rozier. What do we think about Terry?
So is he going to be available?
I mean, he could be. He's playing out of his mind for the Hornets right now. I think he's averaging like 30 in the past month, which is kind of ridiculous. So the price might be a little steep. But in terms of the Hornets, they have 2 guards they'd like to start. Whether those 2 guards are LaMelo and Rozier or LaMelo and Graham, LaMelo is going to be a part of that backcourt. So if they want to capitalize on value, Terry Rozier is going to be the one they should trade. Whether or not he'll be available for a cheap price is a different thing, but I think there's a chance Danny Ainge could work something out if the Celtics really wanted him back.
Does he make like a good amount of money?
18 mil.
So he fits in the exception. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they want to trade him. He's still kind of he's not that young. He's like 26, 27.
Yeah.
I remember that. He's
shooting ridiculously well.
I know. I don't think Rozier's going to be. Rozier wasn't happy here before, and now that he's like proven to be like a really good scorer, I don't think he's going to accept that role. He didn't before when he wasn't, nearly as deserving now as he is of perhaps a starting spot somewhere. So now I don't think he would be happy. I think he'd be a malcontent kind of like he was before, and it just I don't think it would be a good situation.
I think it's different now. I think you've got a different person at the head at point guard. I think Kyrie, there was definitely butting heads.
Kyrie is a real prick.
I think there was issues there. There was issues there, man.
I don't know. I think it was more just that he wanted to start. Like he just wanted to be the guy. Like he
I think there's opportunities for that if Kemba eventually, his contract is going to wrap up before T Rose is over, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. No,
that's a good point, Tim. I was also going to say like. It's not like a free agent signing where you really get to talk to the guy, but if he gets here for some reason and like they're like, listen, like you're good, maybe they end up wanting to transition Kemba to the bench as the Lou Will, if you will, rhyme, not really a rhyme with Will, but like you could slowly transition Rozier into the starting role and Kemba being the spark plug if you wanted to. But the price would probably be a lot, man. Like I don't know if the price is worth it.
I mean, he's shooting 45% from 3 this season, which is kind of ridiculous. He's not a good passer. That's the one thing. He's not a very good passer, not a great defender. He's very much like a Kemba, but just shooting better this season.
I mean,
he also wouldn't be able to wear the same number, and that'd piss me off.
I mean, Kemba, him and Kemba signed the same offseason, so I think Rozier actually expires before Kemba, assuming Kemba picks up that player option, which he will. I don't like it. I think Rozier was kind of he kind of runs hot. I really think it was more the fact of his role that he was upset with because they did go on that great run with him starting, and then he felt like I should be the man somewhere, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And he got to do that in Charlotte. And now, to some extent, he's proven that he is a really good player, capable of, doing a lot of that. So I think if you tried to return him to the bench now, it would just be a lot of the same problems. I think it'd be history repeating itself, and I don't like it.
Mhm. I don't know. I can double check. I don't know if he's come off the bench at all this season. No, he started every game he's played. And the games he hasn't played is because he's been hurt. So it definitely be weird. I would like him off the bench, but like you said, KJ, I don't know how cool he'd be with that. He is a very hot, cold player. Like,
Yeah,
hot-headed guy,
it's
so.
like the 2K thing, when you play with the team in 2K, you can throw anyone on the bench. You want to throw I was gonna say Carmelo Anthony, thinking 10 years ago when he was still really good, but
Oh, I remember he didn't want to come off the bench. Remember when he
Yeah.
was like in OKC
Yeah.
and they asked him if he would come off the bench and he was like laughed.
Yeah,
What a-
and he's like, "Hey P, they asked me if I want to come off the bench," and Paul George is like, "Haha." Yeah.
So funny, buddy.
Oh, jeez. He's carved out a nice role in Portland for himself now.
Yeah.
And speaking of Portland, Damian Lillard's MVP conversations. That was just a little tangent. But with that, I think Sam has to go soon, so we can wrap it up there.
I'm
interesting stuff
heated. I
going
have to
on.
go, but I do.
But yeah, thank you, Tim. Thank you, KJ, for coming on. We'll go around. Anything you guys wanted to say? Tim, I'll let you go first before we wrap up.
Yeah, here's hoping that we see a move in the next month or so. I
Mhm.
think they're going to try and hold out to the deadline, but I think there are moves coming. I think there's a need for it, and I think Danny Ainge publicly coming out and saying something is indicative of that.
For sure. KJ?
Payton Pritchard for Aaron Gordon. You heard it here first.
Oh, God, you're killing me. You're killing me.
Christ.
Oh, man. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to From the Rafters. You guys can follow Tim Sheils, NBA, KJ's by KJ Doyle. Check out the Clover Disclosure. Check out Guy Boston Sports. Follow us at Bannertown USA. And Sam, as usual, wrap us up.
Yeah, follow all the guys. Okay, we always work with Tim and KJ. They're great. We always have a lot of fun with them. I think this is our first double guest podcast too. So
Yeah.
who better to have than these two? But give everyone a follow. Follow Bannertown at Bannertown USA, and you can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA. That's the show for today. Bye.